So the first person that I'm going to introduce is my friend Ann Hand, who is the Senior Vice President of Global Marketing and Innovation at BP. BP, you might know, is pretty big in Europe. Was once known as British Petroleum. They're now trying to kind of float out there that it's now beyond petroleum. I don't know if that's formal, but it seems to be in a lot of the media. Ann oversees $300 million in marketing initiatives. She has 3,000 marketing executives working underneath her in 15 different countries. For those of you who don't know, BP also owns ARCO and ARCO AMPM, so it falls a lot under Ann's purview. She's going to talk a lot about the Helios House here in South Los Angeles. Ann got her MBA from Northwestern Kellogg School, what we like to say is the USC of the Midwest. And Ann grew up in Indiana. So when I met Ann, this was hilarious to me. So I asked Ann a little bit about her background, and she grew up in the Midwest. And her first job, I kid you not, Arthur Anderson came calling, and a gas station came calling. And she picked the gas station. And I don't mean she worked at like a mobile executive office. She was managing gas stations. And she went from 1 to 5 to 10. And however many years later, she is now one of the top female ranking executives in the energy industry. So please give a warm welcome to Ann Hand.
Okay, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but I'm moving with my slides. Sorry. Because I do want your attention up here, if you don't mind. I do have to correct Chuck a bit.
Oh, go ahead.
I was an econ major going to a liberal arts school. I did think that banking or consulting were the best jobs to get. Mobil Oil offered me a marketing rep job. Now, we didn't have mobile gas stations in Indiana, so actually, I just figured that was like advertising. I had no clue. So I got my brand new Honda Accord with the $368 a month car payment, jumped in, drove to Northern Virginia, and on the first day of training in this very beautiful office with like 15 of us that we all thought we were big hotshots, they did point to the gas station convenience store out front, and they said, "You're going to work there for the next 6 months, and if you're lucky, we'll give you a couple of them to run all on your own." And honestly, all our faces went white. So I can't say that I was so brave and wanted to run gas stations. I did, I'll confess, go to a payphone and call my parents. I'll also confess there were probably a few tears on the phone. But maybe it's my Midwestern roots, but I had made my bed and I needed to figure it out. So my first assignment was running 8 inner city sites in Philadelphia, which was probably a way to try to get rid of a girl from Indiana, but it didn't work. So anyway, I've got a lot of slides to cover in a short amount of time, so I'm going to kind of fly through them a bit. But 2 things you'll figure out is that I love the BP brand a lot, and I believe in it, and I actually think the brand is me. I identify with it, so the stuff I'm talking about isn't because it's the hot thing to talk about these days. It's the things that I think are core to what the brand's about. And you'll also rediscover again that I still think about gas stations a lot nearly 20 years later. So with that, the first slide, please. So BP in the year 2000 merged with Amoco Oil. And at the time it was British Petroleum. It had a very old badge, the BP badge, very near and dear to the hearts of people who worked for BP for a long time. But we had quite a visionary CEO at the time. And I think that he knew that the ultimate act of inclusion would be to get rid of all the old logos and to say, in this merger, it's now about a new company, a new future, a global company. So the move to what we call the Helios, which is the sunflower that you see on the right, was actually a huge, huge move. I mean, that was the day that I went from feeling like I had been acquired to actually feeling like this was the new beginning of the company that I was a part of forming. We had quite a visionary CEO. 2 years earlier, he had stood up at Stanford and actually said that climate change is real, you can't ignore the facts, and that no company has a right to take away from the environment, meaning oil companies extracting natural resources out of the ground without trying to give back to it. So when we talk about greenwashing, all these terms that didn't even exist then, this was a truly brave move. Now, I got to admit, in '98 and in 2000, when he was saying these things, we were all kind of scratching our heads a bit thinking, okay, we like where you're going, but we don't get it. Like, how do we behave differently tomorrow? And with that, we came up with 4 new brand values that we said these are the core values that the company represents. And it was innovation, progressive, performance-driven, and green. The first 3, we were like, right, tick, tick, tick. That's exactly who BP is. The 4th one, again, was like, I like it, but I don't get how to do my job differently tomorrow. Now, I want to be clear. So when you see Beyond Petroleum and you see statements like that that go out in adverts, it's not a slick marketing campaign. It is a great marketing campaign separately, but that is not the intention. The intention originally was to say that we're going to stop being British Petroleum and we're going to just be BP. And if you have to find 2 words to go with it, we'll take Beyond Petroleum over British Petroleum. Next slide. Okay, so this stinks because you're going to have to advance all the way through it. If you could just fill up the slide, that'd be great.
How many slides?
Oh,
there
that's
you go.
good. Perfect. I'm not going to go through these in detail. BP's had a lot of proof points. Since we made that public commitment saying climate change is real, obviously Lord Brown at the time did not win a lot of points in the oil industry with saying that, but we knew we had to put our money where our mouth is, and we've made a lot of steps over the last 8 years to actually grow in that play. I think the big act that we did in 2005 was announcing our commitment to put $8 billion over the next 10 years in alternative energy. I'll be candid with you today, we know that's not enough. In 2005, it felt really bold. We were crazy. Today, it feels like we're just scratching the surface on it, which is why we're looking inside our own firm about how we have to accelerate that investment. Also, at the same time, really looking at how do we use partnerships more smartly. Some recent highlights we've had in this space that are good proof points against going beyond our $500 million investment in the Biosciences Institute, again, to look at variety of biofuel solutions, not just the one that Chuck put up, which was the attack on ethanol and its impacts on corn and food development, but really to look at all the different biosciences that are out there. We also built 5 new wind farms in the US over the last year, and have made a commitment to triple our solar capacity between 05 and 08, and are on track to do that, mostly with manufacturing in India and Spain. Next slide. But my job was the head of marketing for BP. And, you know, it's pretty hard to ignore the fact that we can sit and be lofty and talk about how great our brand is, but we still have 25,000 retail sites around the world that service 13 million customers a day. That's all of you in the room. It's the one thing that we all have in common with BP or some of our sub-brands is we've all been to a gas station probably in the last 2 weeks. And, you know, this is the consumer face of the company, and yet we just kind of seem to ignore it. We have all these touch points, but we just that's kind of the dirty part of the business we don't want to talk about or think about. And for me, when I looked at it, I just looked at it as uncaptured impressions, 13 million touch points a day that I don't let people know why they should be choosing BP more often than Shell. And I actually still, you know, I kind of scratch my head some days and think, there's all kinds of things in my life now that I pay more for that I didn't think I would. I do care about which business hotel I stay at. You know, I do like the fact that the kind of PC I use at home or laptop somehow makes a statement about who I think I am as a person. I mean, the way we're willing to spend money now on things that we used to think were commodities. I mean, picking between 2 workout gyms, and I picked the one with the cooler name, even though it's got older equipment, because it just makes me feel like somehow I'll be more fit if I go there. I don't know. And I just can't help but think that at some point when you're driving down the road and all things look equal, there's 2 dirty gas stations across from each other, but one of them actually is trying to do something a little bit better for the planet, that there isn't going to be a part of you that from an emotional basis, not a rational basis, but from an emotional basis, isn't going to be willing to cut across traffic and turn left to go into BP versus right into the competitor. So that really became my call, was how to restore respect to the corner gas station. It's lost its way. 20 years ago, it was the epicenter of a community. Now it's kind of the place that attracts trouble. Capture these untapped impressions. Make people feel proud who work there again, because there's not a lot of pride in saying you work at the corner gas station anymore. And at the same time, really try to ask the question. People go there out of dread. It's kind of like the lowest guest experience on the planet. I mean, maybe the dentist, I don't know, but it's really low. You're locked there for 3 minutes. You know the toilets are going to be dirty. You know the food's going to be bad. I mean, it's kind of like you can only go up, I figure. So with that, the question was, we've got a great brand. Is there a way we could do something with it? Next slide. So the first thing I'm going to show you is something called Helios House, which is at the corner of Olympic and Robertson. And this actually came from a couple needs. One was to say, you know what, if I'm going to try to make change happen at 25,000 gas stations around the world, we need a beacon. We need a lab. We need a safe place where the marketing department can try to do things that a lot of people would look and say, well, that doesn't make sense from an economic point of view. And we needed something that could kind of create hope. And at the same time, it was an insight that, 39% of the CO2 emissions come from buildings. We spend so much energy focusing on cars, and yet we also operate a lot of buildings as BP, both our retail buildings and our office buildings, our manufacturing facilities. So the idea was to actually say, you know what, I'm not going to take a big fancy gas station. I actually want a pretty everyday one. And I want to try to see if I can take it and take on the challenge to rewrap it in an eco-friendly way. Everything about the site is recycled or reused. Everything, which is not easy to do when you're trying to take something existing and make it greener without doing any harm to the environment while you're doing it. But it did address the fact that that's a true story for the average gas station. They're all not shiny, pretty, and new. Most of them are pretty old. So this was an honest, reflection of what we could do with one. And really, too, it was to say, wouldn't it be great if we could take just one corner and make it a true living billboard to the brand and give something back to the community? And to me, the gift to give back was to say, this corner is now a corner you can be proud of, you can use for the community purposes, and at the same time, it's a corner where you can get educated on green and learn that it doesn't have to be polarizing. You don't have to have a PhD to understand how to be green, that it can actually be fun and engaging. So the whole idea of saying you can be green and it can be gratifying. So next slide. So this is the corner I picked. It's a beauty, isn't it? I got to tell you, it was an embarrassing day when I was the global head of marketing. I have all the brands in our portfolio. And I drove by this station and I called the real estate guy and I said, I want to buy this Thrifty station. He goes, buy it, you own it. And I'm like, what? I had no idea I owned the Thrifty brand. I shouldn't say that in public, probably. I shouldn't leave, I know. Yeah, that I cried and then I celebrated. And in 4 months of between demolition to opening, this is what it looked like. Well, no, I'm sorry. That was building it. So it's Hollywood, right? I had to do a little reveal. So I made the construction barrier a little higher than usual, and that green grass every couple weeks grew higher and higher until it actually took over the billboard on top. Now, all of that construction barrier was cut up and turned into school book bags for the LA school system. So again, everything that happened on the site, we had to figure out how to use it. And now here's the site. And as you can see, it's called A Little Better Gas Station. It's not a lot better. We still sell traditional fuel. We're not going to kid ourselves. But we don't sell cigarettes and lotto tickets. And that's not to try to make a statement against them. It's just to say that we're going to focus on energy and education. Next slide. That's it at night. All low voltage LED lighting. The way that we use the lighting that's coming up from the pumps and using the stainless steel canopy actually creates a bit of a natural reflection. So it means that we use about 20% less lighting under the canopy, which is the real place where you suck and use the most lighting on a gas station site. We also broke recycled glass and mirror into the concrete, so again, to create more reflection as much as possible to reduce the needs. That canopy looks a little bit like a spaceship, but it actually has 90 solar panels on top, so enough to actually have the energy for 2 to 3 homes. It also collects rainwater, so we can use that for all of the landscaping, which of course we've also used drought-resistant native planting, so very, very low needs on water. Next slide. You can see the green roof here that's on top of what are the restrooms and storage. And look, I'm a woman. I've been working at gas stations for 20 years. So you can believe it that I made sure that for once we had a good ladies' toilet. And it is clean all the time. I mean, there's been news stories about my toilet. You have to go. Like, if you don't, I don't care if you buy gas or not. Just go hang out in the toilet. And the joke is that because of the price of the real estate, I could probably rent that place or sell it for about $300,000, just the bathroom. They're gorgeous. Yeah, all recycled, reused material. Next slide. And this is the green team that works there, and that's been the real surprise. What this site made us do is question all the paradigms we had about a corner gas station, and one of them is who wants to work there. So we got on Craigslist and we said, if you're ethically minded and interested in the environment, come work at Helios House. We did not say it's a gas station. We got about 350 applicants, brought in about 40 for interviews. Only a couple walked out when they heard it was a gas station. The rest said, I'm not thrilled, but I'll listen to you. And we had 0% turnover in the first 6 months. The first person to leave us, which is kind of unheard of at gas stations. Usually your crew changes every 2 weeks. The first person who left us left because he got into Berkeley, which we figured was a pretty good reason to leave. And he's actually now on a BP scholarship there. But quite a different crew of people. They feel like they're doing a job where they get to actually stand at the pumps and talk to people about, little things they can do to save the planet. And that to them gives them a purpose and a cause that helps them get over the fact that they still have to wash the bathrooms and run the register. So, next slide. So then quickly, I just want to give you a little flavor of, so what are you going to do then about the other 24,999, right? So at the same time, in parallel, we were thinking, what can we do with these sites? I mean, 80% of them we don't even control. We don't even know the address of all of them. So, you're trying to control a guest experience that actually, it's arm's length. And we did some research, and we actually realized that the good news is that people's expectations are so low about gas stations that all we have to do is a little bit, and we just blow you away, I guess. So we started to come on to this notion of a little better. What are the little better things that we can do at our remaining sites? And actually, no matter what country you go to in the world, when you do research on gas stations, the top 2 complaints that all of you have is, I wish it was cleaner and people were friendlier. You're not really dying to have some gourmet sandwich or, you just want the simple, basic things. And the other inspiration was we realized that our logo is beautiful, and when we show it to people, we don't have to give them any words around it. We can just show them the logo, they look at it, and they go, green, clean, optimistic, friendly, hippie, love. Like fantastic words come out of people's mouths when they saw our logo. So it made us realize your logo can speak for you. Next slide. And so with that, we started to think about what are the things we can do at BP, at everyday gas stations, that actually really celebrate our brand and really stay true to what we do, but are cheap and cheerful. I mean, these things have to pay back. We can't build that big glamorous site in LA everywhere. So this was really what I call smart marketing and operational improvement to try to get you to take left versus right. This is just about clever marketing coupled with getting our sites to get scrubbed up a little more and get smiles going. So a few of the things that we started to do last May, we've done this now in New Zealand, Netherlands, and in America. Started to just hand out simple information cards, some of them on seed paper, teaching people little things they can do at home, on the road, in their, in their office, workplace, little things they can do to actually reduce their carbon footprint. Handing out fun booklets for kids that teach them things like, turn off the water when you're brushing your teeth, or use both sides of the paper when you color. Just finding fun, engaging ways to open the conversation up with consumers. We went to paper bags in all of our BP sites in the US last May, moving away from plastic. Cost a little more, but not that much more. So again, that was one we had to sell in hard to the sales team, but we did. We introduced some new cleaner fuels additives that we're testing now in 3 markets at our site. So we have a proof point that says our fuels are actually a little cleaner, and therefore, if you're getting better mileage, you've got lower emissions, so you're doing your part for the environment by using BP fuels versus competitors. Introduce a lot of things online. The internet's cheap. We have a Green Curve, the greencurve.com website, where consumers can get on, answer really simple lifestyle questions, and plot where they are on their personal green curve, and then learn the easiest things to do. It's not about converting your home to solar. It's about simple, little, easy things you can do to actually move up your curve. And then, of course, to launch this, and you see the girl with the pink. See, I'm going to talk about bathrooms again. I always get teased about this, that I talk about this too much. But that is for all the women in the audience will know that's the woman who's on the ladies' restroom door, except that her arms are happy, they're up, right? So, when I say cheap and cheerful, I just sent out to all my sites in the US a new ladies' restroom decal. I mean, decals don't cost much money, it's a sticker. But it came with a note that said, "This is only for the brave." I mean, if you put that new decal on a ladies' room door and she's pink now, she's happy, you've now changed the expectation level of every woman who opens that door. So, don't do it if you're not up for it. If you're not up for making a step change on your ladies' room restroom, then don't put the decal up. Put it in a drawer, think about it for another day. But if you're brave, go for it. So those were the kinds of ways that we tried to have a bit of fun, trying to teach people the small steps they could take with the brand. But we did need a little bit of advertising to get it kick-started. So I'm going to now just show you real quick the adverts to close out. The first one is called Fuels. And again, the target was really the people who work and operate the sites, because they're the people that I want most to feel inspired to provide better service. And as you can see, you'll see us using the logo a lot. Uh-oh. That's Bert, but we have no sound.
A little better. Say hey, a little better. It's a place where I want to be. Say hey, say hey, make the day a little better. Say hey.
Well, got a little cut off, but that's okay. So that was Bert and his dog Jackson. And you can see how unashamedly I put the wind farm in there. We have a big wind business, so it's about, again, how do I connect the dots and teach a retail customer that's the same BP you see investing in wind and solar. The second one is geared towards families on the road, and quite honestly, again, it's geared at my restrooms point. I could be the first person to ever put a toilet in an ad, and I did.
Say hey, make the day a little better. Say hey,
See the flying
make
toilet?
the way a little better. Say hey, a little better. Say hey, it's a place where I want to be. Say hey, say hey.
And the last one's called Babies. The up front, it's High Five Michael Stockwell driving the car with Abby Sunshine next to him. In the back is Sal and Dale and Frankie Clearwater. I don't joke about this. These are characters with a purpose. These kids all have a position on the environment. They're the next generation. They're your kids that are at home, giving you hell about the fact that you're not turning the lights out. So these are the kids that then show up online and in the sites in different materials.
Say hey, make the day a little better. Say hey, make the way a little better. Say hey, a little better. It's the place where I want to be. Say hey, make the day a little better. Say hey.
So those are the ads. If we could just go to the last slide, please. And, you know, like I said, that was to really fire up the troops and say, that's who we are. Shell can't make those ads. I mean, they can't. I've worked for half the oil companies there are. They can't make those ads. I know that that is the spirit of what the brand is, that we're willing to be a bit humble, playful, be honest. It's just a gas station. But actually, it can embody the brand and what the green attributes are of the brand and actually do it in a way that makes money. So the last slide is just to give you some results. From the ad campaign and all the promotional materials that went out to the larger network. First, some of the research up front. 86% of consumers said that making gas stations a little better was a noble cause. That's how bad it is. 92% thought that BP could be the one to do it. So that's permission. 67% said they liked our corporate brand better after seeing the adverts for the retail brand. So again, trying to connect the dots between all your assets. We had an 8-point increase in brand preference in just a few months. That's kind of unheard of, to move brand preference. You get awareness through advertising. You rarely get preference to move. That means that people are actually turning left versus right. And so that translates to volume. We were the #2 highest ranked game on mini clips last summer. We had a Gas Mania game that was all about getting better service and learning green tips at gas stations. And it was also the highest on-site execution. So again, it was about operational improvement. We got 87% of our sites to fully operate the promotion, the signage, the T-shirts, the decals, the giveaways, everything. And I don't want it to look like it's a promo. It's how we are. It's our new look and feel to our retail brand. As far as Helios House goes, our one lab site, you know, most people say they don't care too much about the gas station. They just pick it on location and price. But we had 94% say they intend to return, 79% saying that they see it as a good value, so they don't think that they're somehow coming to a beautiful station and getting ripped off. And almost 50% said they would go out of their way to make it their only petrol station. Since opening, sales have more than doubled, but yet we don't sell the cigarettes and the lotto tickets, so that's interesting. I talked a bit about the turnover. And also, we use about 50% of the energy consumption that the site used prior. So 50% less tons produced of carbon, 50% reduction in the electricity used on the site. And then the most important thing is we actually took the learnings of what are the simple things that every gas station could do like this site, and we actually rolled those out to the other 10,000. So moving perimeter lighting to low voltage LED or to compact fluorescent, things that have quick payback, 3 to 6 month payback. So it's a no-brainer. It's just about smart business. It's not a charity. So with that, thank you. I hope it helped. I look forward to your questions.
So as I said, thanks, Ann. Ann will come up to the first podium there. If we have any questions for her, she's hardly just selling gas. Go ahead, Mike. And there, would you, if you come up to a microphone, tell us who you are, an affiliation to USC, and as they always say, be succinct. On the back. Go ahead.
So, Ann, I started Texaco retail marketing.
Yep.
9 years.
On the bottom.
I'll just talk loud.
There you go.
All right, anyways, and you're right. Texaco ended up merging with Shell, and I was there during that process, and Shell could not do these ads. But I'm curious to see your thoughts on how Chevron's doing it, because we thought what they did with the little cars, and that, I thought that was an incredible, way to appealing to kids and so forth. But further on now, during the basketball tournament, they've been running these environmental ads. Green, about a better planet, better, I forget the message, but it's pretty compelling to me. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, so I would often say, the babies aren't the cars, because I don't want gimmicks. I think what I give Chevron kudos for is Techron is a great product that actually it is cleaner burning. And I do consistently hear that they have great restrooms. So they're getting some things right. But what I do think is important is when we talk about sustainability, it's a big topic. I don't think you can try to adopt a value just because it's timely. It has to be relevant to the business you're in, and I think it has to be authentic. And my only challenge right now with the Chevron ads, I've seen them, I think they're moving, but because it's not founded in some bold moves or decisions or statements they made, you know, rooted 10 years ago, like the way green is for us, I question it. It may be very authentic, but as a consumer and as a shareholder in different oil companies, I look at and I think, did you just whip those together because everybody's talking about the environment? So, you know, like I said, I get, if we had tried to do a lot of this work in 2002, it probably wouldn't have landed very authentically either. But we've had 8 years of living with this value and really trying to sort out internally what does it mean. And by the way, we have a long way to go to operationalize it. You know, it's still pockets of the company that are further along the green curve than others. But I just think no matter what kind of industry you're in, you have to find your position on sustainability that's relevant to the business you're in so that it'll be authentic to your people and you'll really figure out how to live it.
Great. One more question, sure.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, I mean, thank you for asking the question, because it was a bad day. We had a couple low days. There were some days where we didn't think we were going to get zoning, and it kind of turned around. Sometimes where we thought the deal was dead. The only low day that didn't, you know, we couldn't figure out a way around was the day that we realized that the only way to offer bio, well, actually, that site had a couple limitations. One is we would have had to completely broken ground, ripped out all the old tanks, and we actually couldn't figure out how to stay true to the reuse, recycle, low impact on the environment by trading out all the equipment underground. So it was in conflict with another goal we had with the site. Also, that site is a very small site. And so actually we wouldn't have gotten a lot of the zoning and permitting. We couldn't have done like an E85 there. We would have never gotten that through the system because of safety regulations. So that's the kind of thing we try to educate people on when they come to the site, is that site had some limitations. We are looking at other Helios houses. You know, I kind of took the site that somebody was willing to give me and go for it. And that meant I couldn't do it perfectly the way I wanted. I didn't go out and say, now where's the perfect site where I can do everything I want the way I want. But we have not given up. We work very closely with our Carson refinery and have said we have got to find a way to keep introducing cleaner and cleaner fuels at that site. And so our commitment's there, but it's my greatest disappointment on the offer.
Great. And Ann, just so everyone is on the same page, maybe you could give us a minute on what biofuel is, just so we are all, because there's a lot of words out there. And by the way, in the program is a glossary of terms, because we know with new industries like email and Google, this new industry that's being integrated in a lot has a new glossary of terms. So just help us with biofuel.
I mean, so there's kind of what we would call existing or current slate biofuels, which are the things you hear about, which is like E10. It's about blending bioproducts. They can come from, you know, agriculture, waste, what have you. Blending those things in today's traditional gasoline so you can use them in your car. And those products can go right through a gasoline station system with, you know, the pipes and the pumps that sit there today, and in most cases not be corrosive, not put harm to your car or to that equipment. Once you get blending products like ethanol over 15%, actually you need all new equipment. Your car's got to change in some cases, and all the pumps and equipment at the site's got to change. That's why if you're sitting scratching your head saying, well, how come there isn't E85 everywhere? It's because blending at that high of a rate, actually, we don't have the infrastructure to do it today. Then there's a whole thing around future biofuels, which is things like biobutanol and a lot of the stuff that's going on in like the bioscience. You know, can we put microbes in and actually grow fuel? Those are things that are more kind of the longer wavelength investments, kind of 5 to 10 years out. But really, biofuels is a huge space, and there are 100 different solutions. And really, we need all of them to be actively working right now, because you can't place your bet on just one or even 5.
Great. Thank you, Ann, so much.
Can I ask a quick question right here?
Go ahead, quick.
You mentioned that you don't control 80% of the sites, and so I didn't hear the previous question, but in terms of your influence to expand, not only here in Los Angeles, but maybe globally, can you speak on what the company's perspective is on that?
Expand the number of sites.
Yes.
So 80% of the sites are controlled by independent business people. And we have different types of arrangements with them, but with many of them, part of their contract is that they're committed to, like a franchise relationship, they're committed to growing their number of sites or their market share in the geography they've been given. So, the retail business will continue. It'll just continue to change. You'll see a lot of kind of small sites closing. You'll continue to see these big mega sites with all the convenience stores and the car washes. But it's more and more become something where the capital is actually held by independent business people.